and we'll get to the leaderboard, and off we go. And guys, the leaderboards, if you're newer, are from the week prior. That way we can capture everybody's production right up until Saturday. So a symmetry week goes a Friday to the following Saturday. Okay, and then we reset. So this is for, obviously today's call, but then last week. So last week, in the Felix base, we had 9 applications for 13,964. And in the Durgan Ellison, 18 apps for 18,043. And in that, we had Tamar, who's really, really, focusing in on the DFL. She had 1 app for 314. Olivia Strano, I think we're going to see a lot of her, 1155 APV. Mr. James Burge, 1 app for 1200. Nice even number there. Ibble, good to see you. 1 app for 1370 APV. Kristen Walsh had an app for 1512. Mr. Brando, 1 app for 1647. Myself, 1 app for 2302. Tommy Boy, 3 apps, 4489. Great job. Rafa, 5 apps for 8500 APV. And of course, Paige, 13 apps for 9514. Great job, everybody, for that week. And so far for the month, guys, in the Felix base, we've got 6 unique writers, 28 apps for 41,256. And then for the Durgan Ellison, we have 8 unique writers, 2 brand new writers, 41 apps for 49,405. And again, guys, the beauty of our business is in any given month at Symmetry, the actual data tells us, again, we're 16 years old now. I have to remember that. You're going to have 1 really good week, 2 average weeks, and 1 kind of cruddy week. Doesn't have to be very, in the ditches cruddy, but just knowing that you can always reset. And any given day, you can say, "Yep, this is my start of my week," right? And what tracking your numbers does on the subject of numbers, it if you're in your down week, you know it's your down week. You're like, okay, I got to just keep on pushing. And how many times, I mean, again, anybody that's been in this business more than 6 months can tell you, anytime you're in that down week and you just say, nope, I'm not going to panic. I know I'm doing all the right things, right? Because you want to reach out, to your mentor and say, hey, am I on track here? Sometimes it's the very next day. You write business that changes your, not just your week, but your month. So just keeping your head in that right spot, and just knowing where you are in your journey is huge. Absolutely huge. Tommy, next slide.
Hey, this is cool. I love this. We got some changes. We got some new people on here. Conversation, sharing the opportunity. Rachel with 2 and Bridget with 2. That's cool. 2 intentional conversations about sharing what this opportunity's done for you, where it's moved you, where it's moving you, right? I had 5, and Paige and Margaret together had 6. I love it. That is so, so cool. This is where this call starts to get bigger, is when these conversations happen. So excited for this. I love this leaderboard.
Yeah, it's where it all starts, right? And then the
Mhm.
2 new writers, as I referenced earlier, both direct to page. You have Olivia Strano and James. That's an agent that has gone all the way through the process. They're licensed and they've either helped themselves, somebody they know, or they're invested in leads, right? And so getting started, putting that first application in, just gives you a look at this thing, gives you a look at this process, because there's moving parts, right? And just so knowing what to focus on when you need to focus on them is going to be key. And again, that goes with reaching out to your mentor. And when we give advice on, hey, these are best practices, you got to kind of take that advice, and not sort of put in your own spin on it, because there's a lot of moving parts here. So great job to the new writers for January.
And if you found this call, you found the Zoom workroom for the Miller Agency. So congrats, you found it. This is good. This is just um, this call today is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There are so many different things and so many different calls that go on in this workroom. It's open 9 to 9. There's people dialing. There's running appointments. There's tomorrow we have a master huddle. I mean, there's this is where it's all at. If you want to figure out where to go to find to do something, it's right here.
Yeah, and to your point, Ty, being on the calls is huge. So that's just what I wanted to recap. So we had our State of the Union call last Wednesday with the founders and several other, key players, key people that are doing all of the things in our company. And every year, guys, we pick a word of the year. So the word this year is fortify. Now, we all know in theory what that means. It's to shore up the base, shore up your business, as they talked about. There was a lot of focus on um, digital products, not digital leads. We have all kinds of lead sources, but I just wanted to be clear there that, the digital products we have, guys, because we have products that nobody else in our space will ever have because Symmetry built them out. Do you understand what kind of advantage that gives us? But I want to take 1 second and give a shout out. I know he hates when I do this, but Tommy was number one in the entire company for digital leads and submit. He submitted 311,000 APV. The second person was like at 205. So it was by a lot. I mean, so great job, buddy. Great work ethic. Great way to pave the path for people that say, oh my gosh, all these all these different lead sources. We've got digital leads, we've got bonus leads, all of everything is here, guys, for somebody who wants to do well. And so a couple of things from that call, guys, because it was a long call, a lot of good info. But first and foremost, whether you're dialing with your cell, dialing with Google Voice, dialing with Funnel, you need to get an EIN number. In what we do, guys, in our industry, it's highly regulated, and Symmetry always strives to do things the right way because it's the right way, period, right? And being compliant. So if you go to HQ, you're going to go to news and you'll click on the call recap. In there is how to get an EIN number is so straightforward. And that can be, guys, that's an employer identification number. It can be if you're an individual agent. It doesn't have to be if you have an LLC or an S corp, any of that. What it does is it allows your number to not show up as spam more often than not, because again, there's a lot of people that call, not I'm talking outside of Symmetry, right, that call that maybe aren't ethical. So the carriers, the cell phone carriers, they have pretty strict metrics for the calls they'll let through. But tell me, what do you have to add on that one?
No, I just wanted to say that, just remember getting an EIN, getting an EIN number does not mean that you're forming an LLC or doing anything silly like that. This is just a simple process, and really truly what it does inside the workings of Funnel, Switchboard, wherever, it it provides you a business-based phone number tagged to the EIN number, and it also allows you to conduct more calls for business, which is what you do. When people have these numbers that are just, random IP numbers from a computer, yeah, you get tagged as spam. And believe me, you don't want to get tagged as spam, because I lost a phone number that I've had for 20 years based off of just when I was doing some recruiting stuff. People report your call as spam. That number was not tagged to an EIN number. And
Right.
I'll just say this. This is as blunt as I can get. If you want to keep your phone number, get an EIN. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to lose your number, sending a whole bunch of texts out to people and get butt hurt because you lost your phone because it's on spam like I did, do it that way.
Yep.
Just go
Really,
get the
really good
EIN number
added.
and just be done with it.
Yep. That's a great add too, Tommy, because here's another tip I'll give everybody, and this applies to all of us. If you ever have a day or two where you're making calls, you're doing your double dial, right? Double dials, ring, ring, ring. If they don't answer, you hang up, call right back, ring 3 times, and then you send a text. If you find yourself where people are not responding to any text, or you're getting, I mean, low, low, low pickup numbers, take a pause and call somebody from your number, your business number, that's outside of your network, a sister, brother, mom, dad, just see how it's showing up, right? Because sometimes you do not know that your number, but I actually had a client, I think you have too, Tom, where they picked up and they're like, you're lucky I picked up the phone because it was showing as spam. And I'm like, what? And this is like a month ago, this happened. So if you guys ever are in a spot where you're getting almost zero contacts, zero people picking up, responding, check your number. Because even if it showed up as nothing, as a legit number, sometimes these carriers, after so many calls, they'll then mark it as spam. So just don't keep going down that road. Then the next day, nobody's picking up. If you've tried to dial in the morning, in the evening, afternoon, the next day, and it's still not pulling through, call somebody outside of it. I call Katie all the time. I'm like, what's my number looking like? Because you don't know. And then once you do, then you can fix it. You can re-register your number. But what Tom and I are talking about with the EIN, that should happen a lot less. I mean, a lot less.
So I shouldn't have your phone number blocked anymore. Is that what I'm saying? Is
That's
that what I'm
correct.
hearing? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing. Um, and then the other thing too, guys, and again, this is specific to the phones because in our business, right, that it used to be back in the old days when we had to walk uphill, 2 miles to school and we had a rope for a belt, never mind. When we had to drive out to people's houses, the biggest thing was getting them to be there, booking the appointments, the quote unquote helping them, the sale, that was, kind of the challenge. Well, it's kind of flipped now because we have so many products and so many people in our sales systems have gotten so refined. One of
Yeah.
the challenges, it's kind of flip-flop, which is the nature of our world, is getting people to respond to us. They've asked us to reach out to them. So this ties into tracking our numbers, right? And again, if you're new or if you don't do it or have a good form to do it, that has to end today. You need to track your numbers. Here's why. We can talk about X amount of leads to invest in, the dials, but if you're not where you need to be, whether it's the beginning of your journey, you're in a growth, whatever that is, and as leaders, we cannot see your numbers, we can't help. We just can't help. It's if you are dialing and the metrics are you need to get an 80% resolution on your leads. I don't know if everybody on this call knew that. What that means is if you get 100 leads, you should be able to talk to or via whatever it is, text 80 of those. And resolution means good, bad, or ugly. Good, set an appointment. Okay, I have a policy. All right, use your rebuttal, set the appointment. We're not interested. Still a resolution, right? So we're not talking about setting 80 appointments out of 100 leads. We're talking about resolving 80% of those. Now, why is that so important? If you do that, if you just focus on that, everything else will go from there. You'll set the amount of appointments. You'll have the booking rate. It'll get better. Then you get your appointments. But if you just focused on that one metric, 80% of your leads get a resolution, every number will flow from there. Tommy, what do you got?
I was just replying to Tim. I said, there's no time frame on that 80%. It's not like you need to get it right away, but I will say this, there is urgency.
Sure.
When you get leads going, when you get a new set of leads, whether that's, digital's one thing, mail in, call in or another. Mail in, call in, I would give the time frame that the urgency time frame is 3 days.
Mhm.
With a digital lead, you want to generate some sort of contact within the first hour or within 3 hours.
Mhm.
That's kind
Yep.
of the simple rule of thumb. And you're talking about tracking numbers, Bridget, and think about this. And yeah, I got asked to be on a top producer call tomorrow for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm kidding.
I know
I'm kidding. I'm
why.
not, I'm not, no, I'm not going there. It's just anyway. Um, it's just in my nature not to talk about this, but I was looking back at the numbers from last year, and I had 31 weeks, Bridget, that were 5K and above. Think about
Wow.
that. And out of those
Yeah,
30, out of those 31, 22 were 8K and above. And
that's strong.
I was doing all the numbers. I had 2 weeks that were zeros. One
Hmm.
was conference week because I was exhausted running from a contest. And the second one was the last week of the year because I literally just I really focused on family and I had and on top of it I had 4 no-shows, so which was weird for me. So
Hmm.
um it's just how it happened. But out of that, you know, I just wrote a policy on Saturday from a client that the lead was 38 days old, Bridget. 38 days old, digital lead. We had met and gave me the legitimate, I say the legitimate, but I rolled my eyes and I hung up when he said, yeah, I had to think about it. I had to go talk to my financial advisor. And I rolled my eyes and I said, okay, when do you want to follow back up? Is Friday good or is Monday better? And he's like, I'll get back to you. I literally put that in a pile. I wanted to go burn it because it was over in my mind. Well, he texted me Thursday, hey, can we meet this weekend? I want to do that little policy. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And
Yeah.
but when you have the activity, that stuff happens. But it's about tracking the numbers and understanding that it wasn't that it wasn't that I was number one because I just wrote a whole bunch of stuff, in 5 weeks of the year. It was all throughout the year. And took
Yeah.
pride in doing the work behind the scenes when no one was looking. I got better at booking the appointments. If I book
Yep.
the appointments,
Exactly.
they're going to show. I've got an over 80% show rate. If somebody no shows, I'm baffled.
And so, on that point, Tom, and we'll close it down after this. But what you just said, so you're talking about overtime, right? So 80% show rate, amazing. But it wasn't always 80%, right?
Oh no.
It was 30, 40, and so
Oh
you got
God.
better and better. But how did you get better and better?
I plugged in and I kind of got pissed off. There's a part of that that's there. In fact, I was looking at it. I really didn't get good at the digital leads until about April, January, February, March. I struggled. And I was trying to do too much. Now that's a whole nother call for another day, but I was trying to do too much. And what I focused on after that was just booking the appointment, getting in front of enough people
Yep.
and relying on the fact that I had you to call and to text and page if there was something going on that was funky in the middle of an appointment. I still do that after 5 years. Bridget, I don't know what this is. What? Oh, no, I haven't heard of that. Let me know how that goes. I'm like, thanks, Bridget. But it's but it's funny because most of them we haven't heard of. So it's like, but I understand that I know people have my back, even if
Hmm.
I go into an appointment without all the different medications and things like that. If I'm meeting with a family, there's a god darn 75% chance we're gonna help that family.
Yep.
25%
Yeah.
is just human people and whatever.
Well,
But
exactly. And it's like you said, it's practicing your craft and just knowing that, as mentors, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, especially when you're struggling. That's the time.
no.
And human nature tells us when we're struggling, we want to kind of shrink in and be like, all right, now I got to figure this out.
Let
So
me ask,
I love that.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
I have a question for you, Bridget, because I know your upline. I love him dearly. Um, who would we're gonna keep this answer between this everybody on this call. Who's the better underwriter, you or Dave?
Oh, me,
Okay. When you started, who was the better underwriter?
Dave.
Right. Because of one word that starts with an E, experience,
Yep.
right? And anyway, I know more of the story that, but but the thing is, you don't become a good underwriter by just trying to do it yourself.
Yes.
It won't happen.
Yep.
I became an above average underwriter when Bridget finally just said, you need to go figure this out. Write down, like after the appointments, write down where did you go? Why did you do that? I still have a book. It's back here. I still have
Hmm.
a book and I called it my drug book. I literally called it my drugs and condition book. Every time, you know, 45, insulin, diabetes, high blood pressure, this, where did I go? What did I do? And I started in these categories finding out the same things and what got approved, what didn't in my own experience. And
Hmm.
it really, really helped.
Yeah. And then you get those if thens, and I'll just kind of wrap with this time what you're talking. We
Yeah.
kind of got a little bit on another
No,
subject,
no,
but it is
I know, but
very important what you're talking about. So Tom learned by taking notes, being a student, paying attention. Now,
tracking
guys, we
numbers.
have all kinds of resources to do this underwriting, but here's the thing. They're not perfect. The quotings are not perfect. They're a big funnel where we start. So always run your health info. It can be a quick text, like you just said, I'm 45 years old, insulin, this and this and this. Virtual mentor said they could qualify for this. Well, maybe because we've been doing it so long and we had to do it by calling the carriers, using the agent guides, we might say, you know what though, those two things together are going to be a knockout. They're going to be a decline. I would much rather have you text me something that you're pretty sure on, and I can say thumbs up. Now, again, do we sometimes get a client that doesn't tell us everything? Sure. But the better we get, that for the next time, we'll know I need to ask that question. If somebody tells me that they have asthma and they just take a rescue inhaler, the next time I'm going to know to ask, hey, have you ever used steroids with that? Because that's important. So it's all of these things that are all tied into tracking your numbers, doing the work, doing the activities so you can set the appointments, right? So knowing that and tracking your numbers. Again, if you don't know or have a good form that makes sense for you, reach out to your upline because if
Yeah.
you invest and you're getting 80% resolution on your leads, you are going to write business.
And to
That's,
answer your question, no steroids here.
yep, there you go. You're welcome.
Um, no, but Bridget, it goes along the line here. It goes along the line with the four keys, four cornerstones, putting in the
Yep.
massive action, constant correction. You don't have you don't please don't you don't need to know all of everything from every
Hmm.
carrier to do this job well. You just need to book appointments and track your numbers because that's what Bridget started talking about was tracking your numbers. Because when you track your numbers, you know where you're at,
And we can help you
period.
fix it. Period. We can help you fix it. So guys, yeah, I would say today, again, great day for dialing. People, like I said, people are home. This is historically, right? Anytime there's a holiday, people are home. So reach out if you need anything from any one of us, the mentors, leaders on the call. We're here to support and everybody have a great Monday. And then next week we'll talk about they're actually going to have a national call to help us with, the digital products, all of those. So very good. Thank you, Tommy. Thanks for your input today, guys. Have a great Monday. We'll talk to you soon.